What's going on, guys? I'm Zwei.
And I'm Luna, and we're the Two Moons.
Today we're going to go over the best teams to use for the Space Odyssey Guild Raid bosses.
We've actually been planning to release this video a bit earlier, but since it's our first time doing a Guild Raid video, it took a lot longer than we expected. If you guys have any tips that we missed or any feedback for us on how to make our Guild Raid guides better from now on, be sure to leave a comment down below. If you guys are new, we're always streaming our Guild Raid practices and testing different teams out, so check us out on Twitch. We stream every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday starting at 9:30 p.m. EST. We also have a Discord where we're always talking about Guardian Tales. There's a questions and help channel where you can ask any questions you may have. It is also the quickest way to reach out to us. Links are going to be down in the description below.
Alright, let's get into the bosses now. We'll be starting off with the Return Desert Bowworm. Alright, since this boss is an earth element this raid, fire teams will be your go-to here. I personally use this team right here: Lynn, Akiyuki, Aisha, and Beth. The chain order for this team will be Aisha first, Lynn second, Akiyuki, and then Beth last. Another team that we see being used pretty often is Lynn, Plit, Amy, and Akiyuki. The chain order will be straight in a line right here, so Lynn, Plit, Amy, and Akiyuki last. If you don't have these units available, feel free to make your own combination of a fire team. The only thing that I would recommend to keep as a must is Lynn as leader, as she does really good damage, and she's also fire and holds down the boss really quickly. So instead of this team, you could potentially put in maybe like Beth. Beth could work, so she gives a melee buff and she does a lot of damage. Eugene could work as well. Eugene is pretty nice here. Vish maybe, but you get the point. So mostly melee damage and fire units. Those are the priority for this fire team. Alright, so the team we'll be showcasing today will be my personal team, the Lynn, Akiyuki, Aisha, and Beth team. As I said before, the chain for this team will be Aisha first, Lynn second, Akiyuki third, and Beth last. Alright, let's get into their equipment now. So for Lynn, I give her a pocket watch for that extra regen speed, so she has an easier time holding down the boss. And attack cards for that maximum damage. Akiyuki will get the sharpshooter and attack cards for maximum damage also. Aisha will get a greed earring since she has a tendency to die on me, so she has a little bit of tankier stats with the greed earring. However, if Aisha does not die on you, a sharpshooter would do her best since she scales well with crit chance because of her weapon passive. When she lands a crit hit, all party members' crit chance increases by 2 times for 3 seconds. So that will be a really big boost to your damage if you manage to get this passive off, which is why I give her crit cards and try to maximize the crit that I give her. And then for Beth, we also give her a sharpshooter, maximize damage again, and attack cards. If you have a Plit weapon, it would work well since the bowl is an earth element, so fire element swords will do more damage. However, for me, her own weapon has been doing way more damage, so I keep it like that. Feel free to test for yourself and see which one works better for you. Alright, let's hop into the actual run now. So tip number 1, after Worm's first attack, he will try to spit poison at your highest DPS character. So in that case, try to make it your leader so you can lead it away from your team to maximize DPS, just like that. After the poison attack, make sure to position yourself between Worm and the closest wall to you so that his charge attack will cover a really short distance to maximize your AI's DPS. Tip number 3 is to make sure you cancel his Tornado of Death. If you follow the chain timings for the team on the top right of the screen correctly, then you shouldn't have a problem with his Tornado of Death. But if you run a different team, then you might have to figure out the chain timings yourself. For this specific team, we have to pay special attention to Beth's chain timing, because if it goes lower than the recommended timing, Worm will be able to do his Tornado of Death and you're gonna lose so much damage and risk dying. Here's a clip where we did Beth's chain skill too late. As you can see here, we decided to try Beth's chain skill at 0.1 seconds, which was way too late, and Worm actually managed to dodge the skill completely and start up his Storm of Death. Alright, so back to the actual run. We were able to do a total of 4.4 mil here with this team. You'll probably get better numbers with the other fire team with Pelt and Amy, but this is what works for me. Here is a little summary of the tips and tricks for the Bull Worm raid. Once again, 1. When the worm spits poison, make sure to lead it away from your team if possible. After the poison, Worm will do a charge attack. Position yourself between Worm and the closest wall. And number 3, probably the most important one, cancel the Tornado of Death. If you decided to run the same exact team as shown in the video, I would keep rewatching the video and try to copy the run as precisely as I can, because this one was one of the better ones and one of the highest damage that I have achieved with this team.
Alright, next we'll be covering Harvester, who is light this raid. A basic team would do amazing here, but before we get into it, I just wanted to let you guys know that there is going to be a lot to this boss, so please bear with me. Alright, so our recommended team for this boss is right here, FK, Nari, Eva, and Tania. Since Harvester likes to target the unit dealing most DPS, we recommend using FK lead instead of Eva or Nari for more control over the run. This team is amazing since Nari and Tania actually gives defense down debuff, while FK reduces basic resistance. If you happen to have a basic bow, you can give it to Tania. If you don't have one like me, you can just use her EX. So the chain order for this team will be Nari first for the crit buff, into Idol Eva for the attack buff, and lastly FK. Unfortunately, Tania won't be able to chain with this team. Some other teams we've been seeing are FK, Nari, Eva, and Elvira. So the chain order for this team will be Nari first, Idol Eva, FK, and Elvira last. Another team that we've been seeing a lot of is FK, Nari, Eva, and Grummery. So the chain order for this team will be Nari first, Eva, FK, and Grummery last. So keep in mind that these are just examples, so feel free to change your units around to suit your needs as long as you're leading with the unit that does the most damage. Alright, so let's get into equipment now. I'm going to be using different accessories depending on where Harvester's HP is at, since his attack pattern completely changes when he falls below 40%. So if his HP is higher than 40%, FK will get basic mirror earring for that 12% regen, so I can skill him as much as possible. If his health is below, then I will give her sharpshooter instead, and 2 crit cards for her. For Nari, she's gonna be getting sharpshooter either way, 1 attack card and 1 crit card. For Idol Eva, she's gonna be getting sharpshooter when Harvester is above 40, and basic mirror earring when he's below 40%, with attack cards. For Tania, she's going to be getting greed earring either way, with attack cards. If your Tania isn't as built as mine, you might want to consider giving her defense cards and a tankier accessory for harder levels so she won't die. The survivability of this team is decent, but if you're having trouble staying alive, you might want to consider throwing in either a healer or putting defense cards on everyone. Just remember that a weak or consistent run is better than a risky one where units may die. So the first run I'm going to be showing you is Harvester above 40%. Keep in mind that this run is really different from the next one that I'm going to be showing you. So as I mentioned before, make sure you're leading with the unit with the highest DPS, or Harvester won't follow you and you won't have as much control over the run. So tip number 2 will be skilling when he does the 3-wave attack. So when he does the 3-wave attack, he's guaranteed to not fly away for the next attack pattern. So tip number 3, make sure you're skilling on airborne to maximize damage output. Alright, so tip number 4, when he flies away, make sure you run to the corner as fast as possible, listen for the sound he makes, and dodge his charge attack. So tip number 5 is to get as close as possible to Harvester so he swipes at you instead of flying away sometimes. I know it's not shown in this video, but I promise you it works, so give it a try. So I ended its run with 5.4 mil, which was pretty good since he didn't fly that much. Alright, so to sum it up, remember to lead with your highest DPS unit. This is extremely important, so you have the most control of your run to minimize RNG as much as possible. Number 2, he will not fly after using the 3-wave attack, so use that to your advantage. When he's doing the 3-wave attack, you can skill him 100% safely each and every time. Tip number 3, skill on airborne for increased damage. So if you're following the skill timings that we have for you at the top right corner of the screen, then you should be able to skill him on airborne each and every time. Number 4, run to a corner after he flies away and listen for the sound he makes when he's about to come back. Then dodge the charge to maximize your damage. Number 5, make sure you stay as close to him as possible so he decides to swipe at you instead of flying away sometimes. Alright, so now we have Harvester at under 40% HP. This is gonna be a completely different run since he's gonna be using his laser attack twice in a row. So you're gonna start off by running right next to him and skilling him twice, but hold on to your 3rd skill. Wait until 44.5 seconds to prevent him from flying away. Alright, so tip number 2, this is extremely important, so make sure you practice the chains over and over again until you have the timings down. If you miss it by even 0.1 second, it can mess up the run and he will fly away. Alright, so right here, I did a little hop when I was skilling, and that is tip number 3. The reason why you want to hop is to cancel the last tick or 2 so you can skill a 4th time for more damage. Alright, so now he's gonna flap his wings right here, so make sure you hold on to your skill until he flaps his wings and then use it, so you can cancel him from flying one more time. And it's pretty much the same, you just use the same chain timings and you're gonna hold him down. If you do this correctly, you'll be able to stop him from flying and do more damage compared to when he's above 40% HP. I know it's a riskier run, but you can do so much more damage this way. Alright, and that is it for our 2nd Harvester run. I'm really sorry if it seemed rushed, but there was just so much to cover for this run. But to sum it up, make sure you wait until 44.5 seconds to use your 3rd skill. That way, it's guaranteed that you'll be able to hold him down. Alright, so tip number 2, chain timing matters a lot for this run. So make sure you practice. Even if you miss by 0.1 seconds, he will fly. So tip number 3, cancel your skill to miss a tick or 2 for maximum damage output. To cancel your skill, all you have to do is a little hop, and that way you'll be able to skill a 4th time. Alright, so tip number 4, hold on to your skill until he flaps his wings. After he's done using his laser attack, he'll do this animation where he's flapping his wings before he flies. When you see that, just simply skill him and it'll prevent him from leaving. And that is it for both Harvester runs. I know it took a while, but there was just so much to this boss.
The next bosses that we have are Mino and Fairy. If you have a Garam team, it will do decently on either of these bosses. There's no fire boss this time around, so Garam will not be doing as much damage as previous raids. Unfortunate, especially since my main team is Garam. Alright, so for Mino, he is a basic boss this time around, so this is where your dark teams will shine. The recommended team here will be Beth, Lupina, Eugene with Dark Weapon, and Arabelle. The chain order for this team is Beth first, Lupina second, Eugene third, and Arabelle last. For those of you that don't know what the Garam team is, here it is. There's Garam, Elvira, Coco as the core members, and then Rachel. We also see a lot of Nari used here. Nari is used a lot, and another one is Maya. Any one of those combinations will work, or you could find something else that works for you. But the one that I use personally is the team with Rachel. The chain for this team would be Garam first, into Elvira, and then into Coco. You want to pick Coco instead of Rachel because Coco goes into Airborne, and Airborne does more range damage. The team we'll be showcasing today is the Beth, Lupina, Eugene, and Arabelle team. Alright, let's get into their equipment really quick. So for Beth, you don't need a cooldown accessory for this run since the timing isn't as tight as the other runs. So a sharpshooter would do the best here for that extra damage. And pretty much for everything else is the same thing. So sharpshooter here again and attack cards. Sharpshooter attack cards, make sure to use a dark weapon if you have one. A dark weapon would do way more damage and get a boost from the dark attack that Arabelle gives. And then for Arabelle, another sharpshooter, you could use a lower level sharpshooter, try it out, because Mino doesn't do too much damage, so you probably could stay alive. Alright, let's get into the actual run now. So tip number 1 for this run would be patient with your skills. There's a lot of attacks that Mino can do to cancel your skill, so make sure to hold on to your skill. Like right here, I held on to my skill for him to finish his dash attack first, so that my skill won't be cancelled. This is imperative, especially with the Beth team, since you really need all of the 39%. If you follow our chain timings and use everything instantly, then you will end up at a point where Mino is still down when your skill is up. The tip is to make sure you skill after his down status is gone, to make sure you stack the full 39%. Honestly, there isn't much to talk about in this run since Mino is a pretty easy boss, pretty simple. Make sure you use your chain skills instantly so you could squeeze out a second chain skill sequence at the end for that extra damage. Here we did a sweet 5 mil, so that's pretty good damage here. The damage also pretty consistent, so definitely I would look into building a Beth team if you can, especially since she's a good unit overall. No summary for this boss since there was literally only 2 tips. Okay, so lastly, we're finally here on the last boss, Fairy. So Fairy is a water element this raid, so this is where your earth units like Bari, Tinia will shine. The recommended team to run for this raid is right over here. Tinia, Bari, Nari, and Gremory. This is a pretty well-known team because of its really strong triple defense debuff. So Tinia has a defense debuff, Nari has a defense debuff, and Gremory has a defense debuff, and they all stack really well with each other. So usually for this team, Bari is the leader since she tends to chain more bosses better, but for Fairy, Tinia is the better option. Tinia has a better chaining potential for Fairy since she downs Fairy in 3 hits instead of Bari's 4 or 5 hits. I'm not too sure, but Tinia the leader is the way to go for Fairy. Anyway, so the chain for this team is Bari, Nari, into Gremory. There's also a very interesting variation of this team where people make use of Tinia with Alba Bow. The reason Alba Bow is good this raid for Fairy is because she does a whopping 50% to Fairy with this skill right here. The problem is with this skill, you start with Airborne, so you're gonna have to play around with your units to make sure you get another full chain. So the chain for this team will be Tinia first, since it starts with Airborne, Elvira, Bari, and then Rue last. The team we'll be showcasing for this boss will be the recommended triple defense down debuff team. Tinia, Bari, Nari, and Gramarye. So let's get right into their equipment. So Tinia, make sure she has an accessory that gives her regen speed. She's going to need it to get into the optimal fairy run. So attack cards for most damage, as usual. And then pretty much for the rest of the units, it will be the most damaged accessories and cards also. So Sharpshooter, attack cards. Nari, Sharpshooter, and crit cards since Nari hits a lot of times. And for Gramarye, Greed Earring and attack cards. You can also use the Sharpshooter if you have a third one. Alright, let's hop into the run now. So tip number 1 is to skill as soon as you can. This is to make sure that you get into the optimal fairy run, where you cancel a certain skill so that she stands still and gives your AI more time to attack her. Alright, tip number 2, during this attack, there will be a laser that will end on top of your character. Drag it away from your team so they don't move around trying to dodge it. Right here will be the skill you want to cancel. You want to make sure that Gramarye chain is correct so she doesn't get that skill off. So she'll go into this stage where she stands in the middle, free for your units to attack her. Just like Mino, there isn't that much to this boss. It's a pretty easy boss to do. Just follow those 2 tips and you will be golden. So for this run, we managed to pull off a cool 4.2 mil and is pretty consistent. So I would recommend building a Bari team, as she is actually used in a lot of guild raids.
Alright, here we are. We finally made it to the end of the video. Honestly, this took way longer than we expected it would. So we really hope this video helped you guys out. If it did, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and check us out on Twitch for more content like this. It took us about 4 days to put all this together since it was our first time doing this type of video, but we'll try our best to release the next one sooner.
If you guys have any feedback for us on how to make our videos better, drop it in the comment section below. If you guys would like more guild raid content videos, be sure to leave a like so we know that you enjoyed the video. See you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.